Today we are going to be talking about mixing skin tones. Now this trick was actually taught to me while I was in college, specifically using oil paints, but this same technique can apply to acrylics and it honestly can apply to any type of paint that you want to work with as long as you kind of have the same basic idea. So the whole foundation of it sits around utilizing titanium white or any white for your choice. And then I always like to start with red oxide. And a lot of misconceptions is people think that they need to have a peach colored type of skin tone or a brown colored type of skin tone in order to have a realistic looking type of feature. And if you want to have a very realistic looking skin tone painting, it actually really boils down into having all of the colors of the rainbow reflected into that skin. Because unlike unpopular belief, we are not looking like little tubes of makeup that you see on the shelves. We are not different versions of beiges and browns. We have a lot of undertones to our skins. We have outside factors that affect our skin, like the circles under our eyes tend to be a little bit more blue or purple. Some people have more yellow. Some people have more of a yellow underskin tone, while others have more of a cool underskin tone. Some people have really rosy cheeks. Some people are very fair skinned. Some people have really rich, nice, and dark skin. And honestly, the options are endless when it comes to the types of skin tones. And no beige or brown or tan type of paint is going to fully encapsulate the type of skin tones that you will need in order for your paintings to look realistic. Some people like to take this to the far extreme of having an over-exaggerated type of skin tone. That's usually where I sit when it comes to skin tones. Or people like to have this be very, very subtle. It's going to be up to you how you utilize these different techniques that I'm showing you. It really does work out very well. So the reason that I use red oxide, it's a really great foundational color, and the white depends on what type of skin tone that you will be using. So for me, I'm going to try to kind of match a skin tone that would match my own. But say you have a more fair skinned person or a person that has darker skin tones or cooler skin tones, you can add more red oxide, or you can just add less white or more white. So this foundational paint that I'm going to talk about will kind of set up the mood for the rest of the colors that you will mix for skin tones. So I usually start about half and half with both of these colors, and I like to mix that base color. That base color is going to give a unifying feeling to the entire skin tone that you will use, rather than feeling like it's very patchy or very kind of stitched together, or you make ever so slightly different types of browns or tans or beiges and it just doesn't feel right. Having this foundational base color and then being able to add these other colors to it will actually create a really, really dynamic painting and a dynamic skin tone. So starting with these two, I always mix up a whole bunch. And for my friends that like to use different mediums, you can add in matte medium, gloss medium. You can add in Flow-Aid so that it blends really, really well. This works well for those that don't like to have brush strokes show as much. You can definitely add that Flow-Aid to your paint. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to kind of do this at smaller scale mixing. So for you, when you would mix these, you probably would want to mix up way more than I'm mixing up right now if you had a larger or more sustained painting that you were creating. Cool thing about this technique is that this is so easy to set up that you all won't have too hard of a time recreating the different colors that we're going to be working with today. So as you can see, it's kind of like a weirdish pinky beige color. Obviously, if your skin tone is much richer and darker, you could even start with a different base color, maybe not red oxide, maybe something else. I do like this color because it does have reds to it, which all of our skins do kind of have some type of warmness to some extent. And then you'll be able to see these different variations when I go through for each color. I do have my good old fashioned palette over here. So I'm going to be starting by adding little bits of color and mixing these. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab a little bit from the colors. So I'm first going to be starting with primary red and mixing that in, and you'll notice it creates a really nice rosy color. That primary red has a lot of, probably a little bit of yellowish to it, where you can see the alizarin crimson, which is going to be the color I work with next, has a lot more cool tones to it. So I'm definitely going to over exaggerate these mixing so you really can tell the difference. You can be as subtle or as bold as you want when mixing these. Essentially, you're creating a color wheel of skin tones. So this is going to be my base color, which I'm going to set off to the side, mixed with primary red. We're going to put that right over here so you can see it. Make it very obvious, nice, good old stroke. And these will dry a little bit darker, just like any acrylic paint. It does always tend to dry slightly darker. So any of these, you can create variations by adding white, which really does create really, really nice pieces. So I'm going to grab some white over here just so we can add that variation. Grab a little bit of that. So you can see, you can let this go all the way to a very, very white that is very much so tinted with that primary red, or you can even go a little bit darker where it has more primary red than the original color, so you can see the different ranges that these colors of paint can have. So now that I've done the first one, I'm going to speed through the rest of the colors so that you can see me mixing them. So now that I've completed mixing all of the colors with that base color, white and red oxide, you will be able to see a very, very subtle difference between each color. So I'm going to be able to go through this, and I will say the colors will look slightly different due to the lighting and due to the fact that some of them are still a little bit wet. But no matter what, if you have any type of gloss medium mixed into your paint, it is going to have a slight sheen to it. You can see at the very top, I mixed that base color with white and then mixed it with a little bit more of that red oxide, and you can kind of gear it as warm as you want or as light as you want. You're totally open to having variations in that base color, which will give you variations in the rest of your colors. I kept mine pretty bold, pretty straightforward. You can see my primary red and the primary yellows and the primary blues. Depending on the brand that you have, it might not be as strong of a pigment as other brands such as alizarin crimson or possibly even cadmium yellows or the phthalo blues. Those are stronger types of pigments that will affect how your colors look a little bit more. So I'm just going to kind of be able to zoom in on this for you to be able to see the different types. So we have our primary red, we have our alizarin crimson, we have our primary red with cadmium yellow medium hue, primary red with primary yellow. We have our alizarin crimson with cadmium yellow medium hue, alizarin crimson with our primary yellow, our cadmium yellow medium hue, our primary yellow. Then we have our Hooker's green hue, which you can tell is very, very subtle. It's a very light type of pigment. It's not as strong as if I were to mix my cadmium yellow medium hue with a primary blue. You can see how much richer of a green that is than this. It kind of just creates more of a neutral brown color. Then we have our primary blue, which is just very, very subtle. It's a cooler tone of that white and red oxide. Then we have our phthalo blue, which is a really, really nice, rich blue. Our diazoprene purple. And then we have our alizarin crimson with primary blue, which creates a slightly different type of violet. And you can adjust that depending on how much alizarin crimson and how much blue you mix in. So coming back to here, I'm going to zoom out so you can see the whole thing once again. These different colors can result in a very, very dynamic piece. Obviously, if you mix any of these colors with more and more white, you can create much more dynamic highlights on your paintings. Also, you can create much more rich, cool or shadow tones than you would be able to do if you were to just mix with gray or black, or just simply that color's complement. You can really, really create a unifying feature due to that base color throughout your entire piece by utilizing all of the different colors. And you don't just have to use the ones that I included here. You can use any other types of colors that you come up with or that you find. You can even mix in some more earth tones. But because this base color is made from red oxide, which is a earth tone, and white, no matter what, your colors are going to feel more natural than if you were to squeeze red or yellow or green straight from the tube. And then you don't have to worry about having to keep trying to create that same skin tone or stereotypical skin tone that you are so used to creating. So this is kind of my guideline to make your life easier for when you're playing around with skin tones. And all of this can be kind of done in very much so moderation. You could add very little of these colors and create just very, very subtle changes to that base color. Or you can even amp these up so much that that base color takes that back seat and all of these colors of the color wheel take the front seat. It's totally up to you how you use them. But this trick and tip definitely has helped me throughout my own artistic career, and just learning how to mix colors a lot more efficiently to get those colors that I truly see in people's skin tones.